I'm back. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Zekko football channel. Friendlies are generally an uninteresting affair, especially international ones, but every now and again a match comes up with something a little bit different, and in this case England versus Australia wasn't the result, it wasn't the performance, but there were some tactical tweaks that I believe that Gareth Southgate and England could take forwards not only into the next qualifying match but also into Euro 2024 itself, and today we're going to be diving into a couple of them. If you are new to the channel, please make sure that you subscribe, you like the video and you turn on those notifications. It really does help me out. Right, let's talk England. So, England versus Australia, 1-0, a very disappointing affair, honestly. There wasn't a lot to talk about in terms of the performance, there wasn't a lot to talk about in terms of the result, so what am I talking about? Well, in between the game, there was a tactical tweak that was made from the start, from the get-go, and it really got me thinking that England could actually play this way going forwards. It was the moving of certain players and then allowing a more attacking formation to start to dominate the game. Now, we do need to remember that England are playing Australia, so there's always going to be that. However, they did have a good foothold in the game. Australia had some chances as well, but I put that down to England really not having too much momentum, not having too many cohesive routes, and not having enough of a combination together to be able to get going. But the team selection really did make me think. Levi Colwill is starting to come into this left back role, plays it for Chelsea, and now he's starting to play it for England, obviously his first cap. Lewis Dunk coming in, I think he's always needed to be there for quite some time. Fikayo Tomori is doing very well at AC Milan. Trent Alexander-Arnold coming in as well, one of the most creative fullbacks in the world. Jordan Henderson is always going to be a question mark, but I suppose Gareth Southgate trusts him. Conor Gallagher has been doing okay for Chelsea, and I think his energy is something that can really be brought into this England side. And then there are some call-ups for the likes of Jack Grealish, Jarrod Bowen, who have both earned them in certain respects. Jack Grealish maybe less so due to his lack of game time, but Jarrod Bowen absolutely. James Maddison has been one of the best players in the league, and Ollie Watkins has been doing great for Aston Villa. So overall, the team selection I don't really have too much of an issue with, and we're not going to be dwelling on this for all too much, but I thought it was very interesting the amount of changes that Gareth Southgate made. He's clearly looking for something extra, looking for something else, and wanting to give extra players game time, perhaps to be able to utilise them in future matches, and that is a big positive, especially for the way that I think they should be playing going forwards. Let me explain. So this is the England team that played against Australia, but I want to focus on the tactics and the way that they set up to go forwards and the way they changed their attacking profiles based on their positions that they took on the pitch. Two players that are really key to this are both Levi Colwill and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Levi Colwill is essentially a centre-back, and that allows him to then change movements into the centre of the pitch. He's a very good passer of the ball, and he reads the ball and the movement of other players quite well. He's good at playing through the lines, and from his time at Brighton, he's very good and composed and assured on the ball, but he also gets pushed out to this left-hand side because he's got a bit of pace about him. The next one being Trent Alexander-Arnold is another really interesting point. Because of his ability to then traverse into midfield like he does for Liverpool, it gives England a different dimension. If we have a look actually at the average positions that he was picking up, as you can see, it was generally around about the midfield area. You'd assume a central defensive midfielder to be picking up these positions. And then further ahead, this is more of an attacking midfield role. So he essentially played most of the time as anything but a right back, and this allowed him to then really start to dictate possession, dictate play, and start moves going. We know that he was the pass before the pass for the England goal, and that was down to the fact that he was in a more centralised position, but we'll get to that a little bit later. What England actually did was utilised Gallagher and then moved him forwards. James Maddison moved across, very much like we see teams do in the Premier League, at Manchester City and Arsenal. Gallagher moves forward, and that means that Henderson becomes the lone central defensive midfield pivot, but he doesn't, because Trent Alexander-Arnold comes into midfield. This then creates a back three of these three defenders, and it allows 5 attackers and 5 defenders going the other way. It allows Maddison and Gallagher to really pick up pockets in front of the opposition back four, but then also make darting runs into the box. And I'll showcase to you what that looks like right now. So here is a better setup. We have the back three right here. The midfield two of Trent Alexander-Arnold next to Jordan Henderson, Henderson being the destroyer in this case, Alexander-Arnold picking up a more central position to allow the passes over to both Grealish and in behind towards Ollie Watkins. Of course, he has a number of different passes that he can play as well, but James Maddison and Gallagher really do have freer roles in this scenario. Gallagher isn't really a central midfielder, nor is he a centre defensive mid. He's far better utilising his energy, getting forwards into the upper echelons of the pitch, and it's his runs through towards the byline, either as a decoy run for Bowen or to be able to get on the pass that Bowen plays for him on the inside. And this is where a number of chances come from, which we'll get to again a little bit later once we have a look at the in-match moments. But really, Maddison drifting into these channels and Gallagher drifting into these channels just brings and pulls back the opposition defenders, allowing Grealish and Bowen to have so much more time and space on the flanks as they are extending their play out to the wide areas, making sure there's enough space for Maddison and Gallagher, but also making sure that Watkins has enough space as well to be drifting in and out. Eventually, you're going to see all 5 players try to get into the box as much as possible, and that makes it just that little bit more dangerous when England have the ball and when they're transitioning through from one side to the other. It's definitely a more offensive look to it, but it does make them a little bit more open to forms of counterattack, so the personnel later on is going to be absolutely key. But I think that England should be utilising this going forwards. It not only takes advantage of one extra attacker in the latter third, but also at the same time it gets arguably one of the best passes on the ball in the side in Trent into this England setup, utilising and playing the role like we know he can. And if they're able to utilise the pace and the power of passing that Trent has, the ability of the wing from the likes of Grealish, perhaps Foden, even a Marcus Rashford, and then utilising the passes into a Harry Kane or an Ollie Watkins, I believe there are so many different opportunities that England can create through the more attacking nature of football that Gareth Southgate appears to be willing to play. Now, what we now need to see is him implement this in the qualifying match against Italy and in the Euros going forwards. But let's have a look at some in-match moments. This is the first moment that I want to have a look at. Conor Gallagher is out on this right-hand side. He's going to play the ball into Jarrod Bowen and then make a darting run himself through the right-hand side towards the byline. Jarrod Bowen is then going to give him that ball back and he's going to continue towards the box. And it's this attacking threat and the ability to really bypass players through off-the-ball runs that really allows this England midfield to transition that little bit better. I also want to focus on the 2 midfield players right here, and that is Jordan Henderson here, and it's obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold moving into midfield to partner them. They're so close to each other, and that just gives them that little bit of extra balance and midfield presence to be able to go forwards. But let's take it back and go and have a look at Gallagher, who then moves forward and drives into the box after receiving that pass yet again. He then drives a little bit further towards the byline and is about to play a pass. And the second thing I want to mention is look how many England players are actually in the box from this move. This is the transition that has been made to be a more attacking threat through the ability to drive more players forward. We have Conor Gallagher, we have Bowen, we have Maddison, Jack Grealish is coming in at the back post, and we have Ollie Watkins. That's all 5 of your attacking players in the box or in and around the area. And it means, obviously, there is so much more chance for them to score. Unfortunately, it goes through Ollie Watkins' legs, but it should have been an absolute tap-in. And this was just a moment that showcases the attacking intent that England could have going forwards if Gareth Southgate is to keep this formation, these tactics, and more players going forwards, a little bit more bravery with the talent that England have at their disposal. Moving forwards, I just want to highlight the ability that Maddison has out on this left-hand side. While not being the central player, not having a sole role, they can also maintain the stability while also being able to pick up pockets. Look how much space Maddison has in between all of these players. He then can drive and pick a pass through into Ollie Watkins. Nothing comes of it, he should score, but really it's giving Maddison the platform on this left hand side while also having Gallagher out on this right hand side, by the way, to be able to just spread this Australian midfield, and I'm sure they can do the same against other teams of a better quality. Practice, 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 and they'll be able to pick up these familiar pockets of space more often than not. Moving forwards, we have another instance where I just want to mention the amount of players that are able to get into the box due to the tactics that have been employed here. Jarrod Bowen is on the ball, is going to drive towards the ball and then cut the ball back. But here we can see that Conor Gallagher is sat on the edge of the box, and moving forwards, up into the area. We have Jack Grealish entering the left-hand side of the penalty area. We also have Ollie Watkins and James Maddison in the box. Again, 5 players in and around the area, ready to have those tap-ins, ready to have those challenges, just waiting for that decent amount of quality out on this right-hand side. And then it comes to the goal. Trent Alexander-Arnold's going to pick up the ball through in the middle of the pitch. He doesn't get here, I don't think, unless he's playing in that more central role, given the license to really roam in this area to allow him to pick up the ball and then play his pass. And remember what I mentioned, he's very good at obviously delivering from long. He can whip that ball in. He doesn't even look, he just knows the amount of contact that he needs to put on there, and then that goes through to Jack Grealish, who is able to control the ball here for his assist that he has. He drives it across goal, and yet again, how many players are we talking about being in this box? We have 1, we have 2, 3, 4, and a 5th arriving later on. There is so much more attacking intent with this England side, with this new formation, and it's imperative that Gareth Southgate keeps it. Ollie Watkins obviously gets the goal through his tenacity, through his sniffing out of a chance created by Trent Alexander-Arnold, floating that in from midfield, Jack Grealish getting on the end of it, getting into the box and having that little bit more attacking intent. This is the system, this is the play that I think Gareth Southgate should be focusing on and trying to drill into his players going into the next qualifying match against Italy and absolutely the Euro 2024 finals. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below on England and how you believe they should progress forwards. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something new, and hope to see you in the next one. But until then, take care.